Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be like a girl chat. Pretty much I'm sitting down with 6 or 7 other ladies and we are discussing all things law school. So how many times we took the Lsat, how we did on the Lsat, what schools we applied to, what type of law we want to practice. We're even talking about dating in law school. We get into some really juicy topics. So this is going to be a longer video, but I think you guys will enjoy it. So of course, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I will be back at the end for an outro. Okay, guys, so do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? So, Morgan, would you mind going first with your introduction?
Sure. So, hi, my name is Morgan. I'm currently senior in undergrad, so I am a KJD. I'm not sure where I'm heading to school yet, but I'm starting to narrow it down. I'm from Queens, New York City originally, but I live now in the DMV. I live in Bethesda, Maryland.
Okay. Janelle?
I'm Janelle. I'm originally from Gainesville, Florida, born and raised. Go Gators. I went to Duke undergrad, graduated May 2019, and since then I've been serving with the AmeriCorps as a fellow with higher achievement, helping mostly 8th graders get into high school, but also other grades achieve their greatest dreams and grades and stuff like that. And I have not technically committed yet, but I'll be going to Georgetown in the fall. I was selected as a Bloom Scholar, which is full tuition and a lot of other benefits, so I'm really excited about that. Yeah, I think I got everything.
Yeah, all good. Alyssa?
Okay. Hi, my name's Alyssa. I'm originally from Philly, but I grew up in Charlotte, and then I've lived literally all over the country at this point. I went to UNC's broker cousin, UNC Charlotte, and I graduated from there in December 2016. I then worked at an aquarium for a little while and then got my master's in urban planning. I focused on national security and disaster management, and I got that from the University of Pittsburgh. And then since I got that in April 2019, I've been working for the Department of Energy, the National Nuclear Security Administration, out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I am committed to Georgetown for this fall.
Cool. Amirah?
Okay. Hey, my name's Amirah. I am born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. I am committed to going to Mercer University in Macon in the fall. I have been out of school for about a year now. I graduated in 2018, and I have been, I worked at Fulton County Courthouse for a little while, but I couldn't do it, so I had to go. And I now work at a corporate law firm downtown called Nelson Mullins on their medical liability team, and I am set to go to school in the fall.
Okay. Leah?
Hi, my name is Leah. I am a senior at UGA, so a KJD, but kind of an unconventional one. I do have 2 to 3 years of full-time work experience, and I finished like about half of a master's degree. And I haven't committed yet, but it's looking like NYU right now. I have a background in linguistics. I do mostly English education, but my job is I do Sino-Tibetan historical linguistics research.
My name is Inikki. I am currently a Duke senior studying international comparative studies, which is kind of a global political science, and psychology with a minor in philosophy. I'm probably going to be committing to NYU.
Okay. So 2 NYUs. Okay. Thank you. So yeah, ladies, pretty much I just want this to be like a general conversation just about law school, the LSAT, any concerns you have about going to law school. Are you scared? Are you excited? Are you nervous? I don't know. Anyone just want to share like where they're at right now, because we're like applying to law school in the middle of a pandemic.
I'm a little nervous, but I'm ready. I'm kind of ready to get back into school and further my life down the road. So the whole process was more stressful than anything, especially with trying to study, balance a full-time job, still make time for family, friends, and stuff like that. I think, and it's kind of a welcome change, because I'll be able to, I might not be able to relax per se. I'll be able to just focus on school itself and securing internships, externships, and working towards passing the bar. So I'm ready for it. I'm ready to meet some new people. Tired of looking at the same people all day, every day, and I need some new friends. I met some wonderful ones here, so I'm so excited. And yeah, no, law school is gonna be fun. I'm ready for it. I just want my degree at this point, but
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can chime in too. I'm definitely excited. I think a lot of that excitement comes from the process being over. I didn't have a lot of guidance in the studying process, and so I studied during my first semester of my senior year, which definitely was a mistake. So I started studying in September. I took the test in January. It was a mistake because I also lived with 3 of my best friends. So just like a lot was going on. Studying was hard. I missed a lot of social life. I feel like I'm living in this weird space where I'm just like waiting for the next thing to happen, and I'm getting kind of anxious about it because I just like, now that I know where I'm going, I want it to happen. I want to get my degree. I want to have my job. I want to be settled. I feel like this process it was never ending, and it is still kind of going on, and I just want it to be over so I can move on with my life.
Yeah, definitely on the track of waiting. I know for me, I'm one of the 2 traditional KJDs in the chat. But for me, like, I started studying for my Lsat during my senior year. And I go to a huge school. I go to the University of Maryland, so there's like 40,000 of us running around. So it was definitely a lot of distractions going on. It was hard to study. But I ended up taking it. I took it the first time in September of my senior year, and then I studied again, took it in October. And then just working on applications, like, while, school and life is going on is really hard. I'm really, really involved on campus. I guess I was, because coronavirus kicked us all off of campus. So it definitely has been like a lot of ups and downs, a lot of waiting. Still waiting to hear back from 2 schools. So hopefully they get back to me by the end of the month. So we'll see. But like Janelle said, I'm very much ready for this whole thing to be done. I've wanted to be a lawyer since I was maybe like 8 or 9 years old. So it's really cool, like, having like my dreams realized and all that fun stuff. So definitely looking forward to it.
I guess for me, I'm, like I said, another traditional KJD. So I was kind of just done with the whole semester. Senior, I just started pretty quickly after I took the Lsat and got all my applications off. I studied I took the June Lsat, and I retook I believe in October. For me, it was a bit rough, this whole process, just because I'm second generation college and first generation law. So all my parents and my whole family STEM. I'm the black sheep of the family, and by going into law. So I really didn't have much guidance on like how this whole thing happens and like what to expect and like how to go through the whole process. So that was a bit nerve-wracking. And now it's just like trying to choose the right schools, because it's like, deadlines are coming up, and trying to do the pros and cons of each school, and like it's a lot of pressure just because each school offers so many unique opportunities that you have to kind of think ahead and plan what you want to do in your future. But at the same time, you don't want to like hem yourself in too much, because you never know what you find out in law school.
Definitely. So who's here took the LSAT more than once? I did. I took it twice.
Me, I took it 3. I did not need to take it a 3rd time, but I took it 3 times.
Okay, so like, what did you do different, like, each time that you took it?
Well, I told myself I wouldn't apply to law school if I got anything less than a 168. The first time I took it, I got a 156, which is not where I needed to be. And so I knew, like, it wasn't a question. I knew immediately I was going to take it again. And so I self-studied for all of it, for the 156, and the 167 was my second score. And for me, mostly it was just building good habits and focusing on time. I had a lot of the foundational skills I needed. Linguistics crosses over with philosophy a lot. So logical reasoning, formal logic, those are the sort of classes I'd already taken. I was just very slow. And then I took it a 3rd time because I'm crazy. And I was like, I got a 167. I promised I would get a 168. So I'm taking it a 3rd time. And I got a 167 again. And
Yeah. You did better than me. I set my expectations like, you know what, we're just going to do enough to get into school. But I did luck out because I lucked out because I got a 4.0 in undergrad. So I said, okay.
That's not luck, girl. That's not luck.
I said I can cushion myself, it doesn't get like, in a certain range, and then being black and a female on top of that, I felt like, okay, yeah, I could have probably studied more and got like, a 165 or something, but I was like, I got a 158 after I got a 140 the first time. I said, okay, I probably need to do a little better. And then I got a 147 when they were doing the July test and everybody got the free cancels.
Yeah.
So, I was still proud of myself for making that jump. And I said, for where I want to go and what I want to do, I'm okay with where I am. I don't need a 180, not knocking anybody who wants one, because, who wouldn't? But, I'm okay with being average in this point, because I know that once I actually get into school and start learning and working and doing my law school work, that, my education and expertise will translate into my grades there. Because, when you study for the LSAT, you're just studying pretty much how to take a test, because there's really no material. It's like math, really. You just got to know how to do it and whether or not you can apply it. So, I'm cool. 3 times, third time's a charm. And we roll.
Yeah, I took it twice, and I got the same score both times, and I was very upset with myself because it was like a waste.
My time and $200.
Yes, yeah. So I got a 157 both times, and I was really mad at myself because I was like, why did I waste $200 of my mom's money to take it again? But she wasn't even mad. She was like, you would have wondered how you would have done. But I think for me, like, because when I first did like a practice, I got a 150, and I was like, okay, like I want to break a 160, and I got like close-ish. But for me, I was kind of like, okay, I took it twice. Like I can't afford to really wait anymore to study to take it again. But I think for me, like I was a lot more effective of a studier over the summer when I had more time to like sit down and not be distracted, like being back on campus and running around doing all the stuff that I was doing. But also we have a pre-law advisor on campus, and he recommended that I take the October test. I don't regret taking it, but I almost wonder what would have happened if I took it in November, if I had given myself more time to study. But I feel like it worked out for the best anyway, because my GPA was also, I have a 3.86 in undergrad, but else my undergrad doesn't do, we do plus minus, but A plus is the same as an A. So when I put it in LSAC, I got a little bump to 3.95, so it worked out.
So I did not have the benefit of like a 4.0 or anything. My GPA wasn't bad. I had a 3.79.
Bad.
So I know. Let me be that person.
Guarantee you guys, my GPA is lower than everyone's here.
But I did know I wanted to do something very specific. Like I was only going to school for international law, like international public like policy. And that was the only reason why I was going to law school. I only applied to schools that had like an international law program and dedicated faculty. And all of my essays were like, I want to do international law. So I knew that a lot of schools didn't have that as an option. And the ones that I was considering were pretty highly ranked. So I just wanted to make sure I could get in. And also I didn't want to be poor.
That's a big mood.
Yeah, I'm poor right now and it sucks. I just want to be not poor.
Okay, wait. So why international law? Like, what about international law?
Oh, I am Kenyan. I'm a Kenyan. Well, I don't know if I count as an expat or not. I was born in the United States on purpose, and then we went back to Kenya, and then we came back when I started high school on purpose. Yeah, my life was planned out very precisely by my parents. I've always just been interested in like transnational law and transnational exchange. And Kenya is a beautiful, amazing country that's also incredibly corrupt and terrible. And I grew up like very exposed to these issues. And I'm still very interested in it. I'm very interested in Africa and the United States interactions with Africa, especially East Africa, which I think doesn't get as much representation, obviously, just due to population representation and also our history with West Africa. So that's kind of what I'm interested in, even though I definitely plan on doing big law for like a number of years.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, girl. International shawty, okay?
Does anyone else know exactly what type of law they want to practice?
Well, I actually want to do international law as well. I'm not quite sure what subgroup international law I want to do. I'm really interested, originally I was really interested in the UN until I actually learned about it and realized it's really just a tool for the US and bigger countries to dominate the smaller countries. So I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm really interested in international relations and how Western countries interact with post-colonial countries, particularly, especially how they have used international law to interact with them and most of the time keep them in an economic position of subservience to increase their own economy. I'm really interested in A, stopping that, and B, using international law to do it, because there are, in fact, international laws on record, it's just no one enforces them. So I'm really interested in enforcing existing international laws to the benefit of post-colonial countries.
Okay. Anyone else know what type of law they want to practice, or? Nope.
Yeah, my interests are pretty similar to Inikki's and Leah's, actually. So I was really lucky at Pitt. I was able to cross-register and take some law classes in national security and like international law, because that was what I was studying. And so I'd like to continue that in law school. Probably focusing more on, I focused on money laundering in grad school. That was really fun, actually. I feel like I could definitely like defend a couple of money launderers. But, you know, very similar sort of background to Inikki there, with like studying the UN and different things like that. So I was looking for national security law, like more specifically, which was why Georgetown was kind of the best. Like, Georgetown is like Disney World for national security law. I mean, I know the other T14s probably have classes on it, but Georgetown's the only T14 in DC, so that's really the epicenter for it. Just a little plug there.
No, that makes sense, though. That makes sense. Anyone else? I know Morgan and Janelle, you both want to do public interest, right?
Yes, so I'm definitely on team public interest, but for me, I know that I'm really interested in criminal law. I am double majoring in criminology, criminal justice, and psychology at my undergrad now, so I came in like knowing that I was interested in our criminal justice system, and especially like as you know, we've started to shine like more of a light on a lot of the problems and issues that exist in our system as it functions now. So for me, like, I'm really interested in criminal law. Of course, part of that, you know, might be because I love SVU and all those crime shows, even though they're not accurate, like, at all. But for me, like, I've always been interested in it. And, you know, I don't know whether I'd want to, like, go, you know, team prosecution, team defense. I don't really know. But for me, because I am interested in public interest and I know I want to do criminal law, that's kind of like the, you know, the way you can cross both those together. But we'll see what side I end up on.
Yeah, I'm also PI focused. Not sure exactly what that's going to look like, but I think I'm leaning towards youth justice and kind of youth outcomes and all of that stuff. I studied sociology in college, and a lot of my research, a lot of my focus focused on youth identity in education, youth outcomes. My honors thesis focused on like youth identity and community values and focusing on that. And with the work that I do now, seeing firsthand what it's like for a lot of underserved kids and just the barriers that they face just straight from the onset, elementary school onwards, I really want to kind of fight the good fight. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I know that I love kids. I want to work with them. I want to make their lives easier. I want to break down those barriers. Specifically, I'm leaning, like, thinking black and brown. We'll see what that looks like. Not sure yet.
Okay. Amirah, what type of law do you know already? What type of law you want to practice, or not really?
I'm kind of originally I was dead set on prosecution. More so just being in the DA's office. Having the experience of being in the solicitor's office and seeing misdemeanors prosecuted on a daily basis, it kind of turned me off from it because it was, you know, a lot of petty crimes, especially dealing with like marijuana and people getting $1,000 fines and jail time for, you know, less than an ounce. And so me personally, I don't think that unless you're out here dealing to kids or you're doing something malicious with it, I don't think it really constitutes it. So for me, I wanted to focus on crimes against other people, and particularly rape, murder, assault, arson, so some of the 7 deadly sins, and you know, working with people to get those type of people off the streets, so that, you know, that, because I think they're the ones that we have to worry about the most, and even especially those who don't really have a hand in it but facilitate crimes, especially, you know, towards the top. So that's been it's pretty much been where I wanted to go. I'm also really interested in housing, particularly landlord-tenant disputes, and working with both sides, more so the people, like the individual landlords who, they just have the extra house that they're renting and they've got bad tenants, or, the people who don't know how to fight against a corporate team with 10 lawyers on it. So we'll see. Corporate law has been interesting, so I thought about dabbling in that. I said I'd probably go corporate if I had a lot of debt, but if I don't manage coming out with any debt, I said I'll stick with my original goal.
Okay. So speaking of debt.
D word.
Yes. Yeah.
So when you guys started this process, were you like, I'm only going to take out this amount of debt? And do you think you're actually going to reach that number, or do you think that your number was like crazy and it's never going to happen?
Yeah, I think I had said it before in the group chat, but again, I came in this with so many wild rules that I made up for myself. But I had said I wouldn't go to a school for less that offered me less than half tuition, and I'm sticking by that. Yeah, so I didn't set a limit on debt because I knew cost of attendance was really going to make a lot of variation, not just cost of tuition. But then also I think there's some benefits from being in some different locations. Like, for example, Alyssa was talking about being in DC is very valuable to her, whereas like a different school might have a much lower cost of attendance just by not being in DC, even if you get a lot of money from Georgetown. And for me, one of the reasons why I'm still considering NYU, I did get 2/3 tuition, so they're on the table.
Oh, Matt Jelly.
I know. Yeah, they're still on the table. But cost of living in New York City is, I think, about 2/3 of tuition, like on top of tuition. I think my first year I'm going to live on campus, but the year after, just because I'm afraid I won't go to class, I know myself.
Ma'am!
I just won't. I won't do it.
At least
I
she's
won't
honest
do
with
it.
herself.
My second year, I definitely plan on living a little bit further away, probably in Bushwick, and that'll save an enormous amount just in like rent. But yeah, I said half tuition was my limit, but then looking at this cost of attendance is like hurting my feelings.
Yeah, for sure. I know for me, like I have some debt from undergrad coming in. I didn't set like a hard number per se, but I definitely was like, I would prefer to stay under 150,000. But of course, like different schools, have different costs of attendance. They have different costs of like the tuition, your living expenses, all that stuff. So for me, like my original goal was to go back to New York. Like I said, I'm from New York. I'm from Queens, the best borough.
It is.
Yes, Queens is the best borough. My plan was to go back to New York. So I applied to like mostly New York schools, but I did apply like throughout the East Coast. So for me, it's come down to Georgetown, and then I also got into University of Pennsylvania and University of Virginia, but I'm waiting to hear back from Columbia and NYU, which of course are like the two places I want to hear back from the most. But I know for me, like location, like cost of living was like a big thing, just because especially once you start getting into like scholarship and aid that you want to pay back, like, you know, a certain amount of money at one school might be the same as a certain amount of money at another school, just because of like costs of, you know, living expenses and all that stuff. But I am coming in with about probably like closer to 30,000 once we actually start the semester. So I was very cognizant of it, and especially for public interest, we're not making the crazy $200,000 a year salary like our corporate friends are. So of course that's a really big consideration. So I definitely was looking at schools, loan repayment assistance programs. So there's of course the federal government's like the loan forgiveness stuff, but individual schools can also help you pay your loans. So I was looking at how those programs worked and how, you know, there had a certain threshold or a certain position that I had to hold to be able to attain, like, and have them help me pay off my loan. So for me, like, I definitely, Georgetown is pretty much like where I've decided I'm going if I don't get good news from Columbia or NYU. So for me, like, they gave me a really nice package. Cost of living in DC is like pricey, but not the most like expensive place, even though I love my city. New York is really expensive to live in, but also like they have a good LRAP program. So, you know, it's kind of like a good blend of everything that I was trying to be cognizant of.
I didn't come in with any hard limits. I am very fortunate in the fact that I came out with no undergrad debt. So and also I have like, again, no clue. I was kind of led down the idea that like there is no really good financial aid for grad school, so just expect to pay a lot, which a bunch of people told me that you just have to go into debt and just live with it, which is probably very poor advice looking back. But for me, it was like as long as it offered what I wanted and it was top ranked, because the reality situation is, what I learned from Duke, my time at Duke, is you're paying for the name. And if the name is worth it and opens enough doors, I'll pay, because it'll pay back eventually. I'm very fortunate that I got 40% of NYU's cost. I also came in with the idea that I was RA and undergraduate, so I was coming in with the idea that I'll just be a GR or RC or work in HR again to cut down the cost. So that way, like, even if I had to pay full tuition, at least like 33% is automatically covered. So I kind of came in with a contingency plan on how I'm going to cut this all down. So hopefully they work. Who knows?
So is that how you guys decided on your schools? Did you base it off of location, debt, the programs they had? Like, how did you guys choose what schools you applied to? How many schools did you all apply to? So Morgan, you go first.
Yeah, so I applied to 12 schools. I mostly picked, for me, location was probably the most important thing because, like I said, I really wanted to go back to New York. So since I didn't get to do that for undergrad because in-state tuition, so I stayed my butt in Maryland. So for me, location was really important. And of course, like cost of attendance and like tuition, all that was important. I think ranking was also, of course, like a big consideration. Like I said, I stayed in Maryland for in-state tuition, but I did have like pretty good options for undergrad that I could have went to, but I wasn't going to pay $60,000 a year to go to an Ivy League when I could get just as good an education at a state school. Since I knew I would be going to law school and I would chase my prestige then. So for me, location, price, ranking, and then of course, like I think size of the class is really important because some people are just more comfortable with like a certain number of folks like in their class. For me, like I'm way more comfortable having people around and then preferably more people around. Because growing up, I had like almost 40 kids in my classroom and my high school was 550, which is right around where Georgetown is. So I did get in some schools that like had a lot smaller class sizes. So certain things, it's like preference, even down to like the weather, even like I knew that I was not about the super hot lifestyle. So I was like, I'm not applying further down south than Atlanta, but you know, I would not be happy like in Florida or somewhere really hot. So, but yeah, location, price, ranking, I would say even climate. Of course, diversity of the class too is also a big one for, you know, you want to be around people who look like you. So.
Right. Alyssa, what about you?
So location was definitely the biggest one for me. You know, like I said, my entire career has been in government. I want to work in private sector, but I'd like to work as a go-between between like private and government. So DC was kind of the obvious choice. So I applied to all the DC schools. Price, not so much, because I'm hoping to go into big law, which is never a guarantee, but because I was hoping to go into big law, I was okay with like taking out a little bit more loans. The big thing for me was, do they have national security law? And are they in DC? Or if they aren't in DC, do they send a lot of people to DC? So I think I applied to 12, and my top 3 choices were Georgetown. Howard was a close second. That was kind of the 2 big ones, and then George Washington was up there, but they decided to play with me, so that didn't work.
Yeah, those scholarships. I don't know what they were thinking they should.
No.
So, Leah, and I'm guessing for you, you just really base it off of like the international law program, right?
Yeah, for me, I applied to 12 as well. Do we all apply to 12? Dang. But I also, okay. I also applied to 12. Again, I was looking for a program that's not super huge at a lot of schools. So I was only looking at schools that had a strong international law program. And then also I was definitely looking for rank. International law, and then also location. I am an East Coast baby, been an East Coast baby all my life. ATL and NYC, the most stereotypical East Coast cities. And I would be very afraid to leave them. I did apply to one school in the Midwest, Michigan, and then 2 schools on the East Coast, just UCLA and Stanford, because you have to. So location's a big factor for me, because international law isn't something that really exists like everywhere in the United States. So that's why I definitely either needed to go to a T14 or a school that's in New York, or Stanford. So that was a big consideration for me. And then money, I came out of undergrad with like extremely minimal debt. I think it's like $7,000. I'll pay it off in June. So price was a concern for me just because I hate being poor and I want to be poor for as short of a time as possible. I do definitely, my ideal career plan is federal clerkship, big law, State Department, something else at the end.
Yeah.
Because I do have these like government aspirations and like these big law aspirations, I wanted to make sure that was something that was possible. And if I need to pay to make that happen, I was willing to pay.
Okay. So Amir, how about you? How did you do
For me, debt or money and location were pretty much equal for me. I wanted to stay in Georgia because I want to practice in Atlanta. But I also don't want to go broke in the process. I'm with Leah. I only had about $8,000 in debt. So that'll be paid off by the time I go back. And I'm extremely debt averse because I want to get my life started after graduation and not have it start 5-10 years later. I had 4 choices or 4 main schools. I applied to 11. Not gonna lie, I only applied to some schools because they threw a CAS waiver at me. So I said, why not? So I think the furthest school out was Arizona State. But after that, I was just like, yeah, okay, whatever. But Mercer offered me their Woodruff, so I don't have to worry about paying for anything, and then they give me a little stipend. So I'm, extremely grateful for the opportunity to be able to, go to school in an area that's going to set me up because I want to be a judge. So being in big law isn't really something that I need to do. And Mercer offers a lot of clerkships and externships with judges that practice part-time and have their own practices. So it gives me a better opportunity to pursue my dream that way, and make a lot of connections down there because a lot of those lawyers practice in Middle Georgia and in Atlanta. So there's a lot of opportunities for me to kind of branch out wherever I want to go, and buy a house so I can stop living in an apartment because this whole rent situation is dead.
Exactly. Inikki, what about you? How did you choose?
For me, it was mostly about ranking. I was kind of told it was T14 or bust. I received a lot of questionable advice as I went through my path. Looking back, it was a lot of questionable advice. But they did have a point. It was that you can be middle of the road in like a T14 and still get a lot of opportunities that you would have to be like the top of your class if you went to a lower ranking school. And I worked really hard in undergraduate, really hard in high school, and I kind of didn't want to have to like scrap and scrape through my law career. So I was going T14. I went to the Lsat forum actually in Atlanta to get a better understanding of this kind of within the T14 range and also other schools, what I was looking for. I was looking definitely for the international law program. I was looking for study abroad opportunities. I studied abroad extensively in undergraduate. It was such a crucial part of my development and my understanding and getting a better understanding of the world and how things work that I really wanted to continue it, especially from a legal perspective. So international opportunities. And then it was just personal preference. Like, I don't like to be cold, so I wasn't going to Michigan. I heard there's nothing out there. No offense to Michigan people, but I heard there's very little out there. There are no Black people out there. And I was like, I can't do this again. Also, I went to the LSAC, the LSAC forum, and how they treated me when I walked to the table had a big effect. So that for me was ranking. Money didn't factor into it as much, just because I was paying for the name, and I looked at the median salaries and thought, okay, if I have to go into big law and I took on a bunch of debt, it's like push come to shove and nothing else worked. I thought I could repay it back in like XYZ amount of years. Because let's be realistic, if you go into big law, like my friend works for Goldman Sachs right now, and he's like, don't get a big apartment because you're never gonna see it. You busted your butt at the law firm. Like, don't worry about it. Like, you're not gonna do much. Like when you're in the grunt, because you're putting in so many hours. So like, all your money it can go back into repaying your debts because you don't have time to spend it. So, I guess was median salary, ranking, international law programs, international opportunities.
Okay. So another question is like, what resources did you guys use to actually look up those schools? Like, how did you know, like, oh, this school has international law or this school has these good programs? How did you know?
I actually did a blog post on this. I don't know if it's posted yet, but it's scheduled. And honestly, the easiest trick that I found was just to Google whatever you're interested in, law journal. So I would search National Security Law Journal. And then all these law journals would come up, and then I could see like which schools had enough of a national security law like department to have a journal. And like you can do it with any type of law that you're interested in. It's so fast and it brings everything up right there for you.
I know for me, I'm very fortunate that my undergraduate institution has a pre-law advisor on campus. So I didn't really utilize him as much like freshman and sophomore, even like junior year. I really wasn't thinking about it as much. But senior year, I definitely spent a lot of time in Greg's office. Greg is the man. But for people who don't have pre-law advisors, of course, like looking up like individual schools, like if you have an idea of like, oh, I want to go to this school or I want to, be in this area. Of course, like going to law school fairs if you're, if you have them at your school or in your area. I know Lsat will schedule like forums in, big cities, or, if you can just go up to your local college and go to their law school fair, and just seeing like, what schools are there, like, location wise, what programs do they have? Are you interested in a particular area? If, you want to try to hunt that down. But yeah, I know for me, like the law school fair was super, super helpful because I had an idea, like, location wise, helped narrow down a lot of places for me. In criminal law, pretty much everybody has like criminal law because it's one of the foundational classes. So of course, like there's people there to like talk to you about it and help you out in that sense. But I know for me, like my pre-law advisor was like invaluable in terms of helping me like figure out even like where to apply and what schools I should look at and all that stuff.
Yeah, I used a slightly different approach. Because I kind of knew what I wanted to end up as, I found those people who had the job I want on LinkedIn, and I just emailed like 75 people.
Go ahead, network.
Crazy. And about 15 of them emailed me back though. I think I emailed 73, and 15 of them emailed me back. And like 10 of them are still like, we're still like in contact. They let me ask them questions. I got to call some of them before the whole Rona ordeal. Because I live in Atlanta, I was able to meet up with some of them. I talked to people who were either previously in the State Department or were going to be in the State Department, people who were doing big law. So I could kind of like feel out like the different like steps of like where I wanted to end up, and also see like what those people like, what they don't like, and then what they did to get there. Because I think the one thing you can't really find on the internet is like the individual experiences someone had in law school. For example, you're supposed to do something every summer, whether it's like formally at a firm or with some sort of like non-for-profit organization. So hearing what organizations they went with, or if they were like, no, I absolutely needed to have 3 summers of big law, otherwise I would not have gone where I was. Or if they were like, I needed to make sure I was demonstrating international law, like that I was dedicated to that to my employer. Like those were things that you could only really get from a person. And people are nice. Like people always underestimate how nice people are. Like if you email someone a nice email that's personal and specific, they might email you back.
Yeah, I mean, similar to Morgan, so I also had a great pre-law advisor. Shout out to Gerald. I started talking to him as a sophomore when I first had the idea of going to law school, and kind of showed up at his office way too much. He told me that he would stop letting me in, but it's fine. So I was there all the time, and he like put some schools on my list. I would come to him with a list. He would say, if you don't put this school on your list, I'll beat you up. Joking things like that. Gerald's great. And I also did it kind of backwards though. So I just kind of applied based on really no expertise, no knowledge. I just applied based on the school is hiring, where I want to be. The school sent me a CAS waiver or CIS waiver, all random stuff, no rhyme or reason to it. And then I did a lot of the research after the fact, and a lot of what I did was mostly talking to current students, to some faculty about what they were offering. I think that because what I want to do isn't necessarily set in stone, I wanted to get an idea of which places would allow me to change my mind and which places had the flexibility and the support to let me make up my mind. Like if I change my mind 2 hours summer, am I going to be supported in figuring out what to do with my life. So yeah, I wish I had done a lot of the research beforehand. It would have saved me some money and a lot of time for sure. But I kind of applied widely, and once I got in and I started getting a better idea of what I wanted to do and my future goals, I looked into the schools, looked into their programs, looked into their services, their clinics, just to see what I could be offered and what chances for exploration I had at the school.
Yeah, I kind of did mine. My first idea was I was going to either Emory or Georgia State because I didn't want to move. This is where I was gonna stay. It was easier to get internships because I was in the city and finding a summer associateship somewhere. Just because of how well connected the schools were, and I applied to Mercer as a safety actually, with no intentions of going, but just, applying for scholarships off of a whim and, actually going down to talk to people and meet with people. And one of the partners at my firm graduated from there, and I was talking to her because she pretty much had the exact same life plan just laid out that she took. And I was like, oh, that's kind of what I want to do. And she invited me to their alumni dinner, and I got a chance to talk with thousands of people. And, they kind of all said, this is where you want to go if you're trying to go down this path or you're trying to make these connections, because the network is so large that, anywhere you go, you're not more likely to meet somebody in the field that you want to work in. And their support system in terms of, who do I talk to? What classes do I want to take? Who were some good mentors? They were pretty gung-ho about that. So, just being able to get that firsthand experience from people who had recently graduated, have been out of school for 10, 20, 30 years, was pretty invaluable for me. And I'd recommend anybody going to school, if you, like Leah said, if you can get in touch with somebody about what you want to do, where you want to go, do it. Because without it, I probably still wouldn't know where I wanted to go.
So I guess, is anybody else interested in anything else, like just besides, not just, but is anybody interested in anything besides being an attorney or being a judge? Like, do you have any other like entrepreneurial goals, anything like that? Okay.
So my ultimate goal is to open up my own law firm, but also have a correspondent NGO that is interconnected with the law firm, because it's been my experience from watching the law process is that I shadowed a judge in the Ohio Supreme Court. I was able to sit in on a lot of the, they had a sentencing hearing, and I'm watching this judge, and it's like he's handing out sentences. They're fair and everything, but I realized that when they're explaining their mitigating and I don't forget the other word is for exacerbating factors, they a lot of them had to do with poverty and other kind of barriers, and I realized that you're just gonna keep revolving. It could be a revolving door because a lot of the factors that led down this road have not been mitigated. So I want to have my own NGO that is more of a social working kind of thing, where a lot of the resources are maybe in the city, but they don't have access because they're so disparate. So you might need housing is in one office all across the city, and then food's a different office, and they require all different documentations. It's such a hard process to go through if you're trying to get back on feet and get help. So I want to create my organization that has all the information on where you need to apply and when, and we're doing documents for you. You need to come into our office and don't need to go to all these different places to get them back on their feet. So win or lose, you're better off than when you started. Because again, if I'm defending someone, let's say a mother who was abused by her husband or something like that, and now trying to leave, it's well, you have kids, you don't have, you don't have any place to go now because you're a working mother and you haven't worked in 45, 20 years. It's just you're not better off. You're now have a whole new set of problems that I helped you in the short term, but in the long term, you're still in a vulnerable position. So you're going to fall back into patterns or get into trouble later down the road. So I'm hoping to create my own NGO, connect to my law firm.
No, that relates to what I want to do as well. So I want to own my own community center for people that are struggling with substance abuse or like domestic violence, things like that. So I want to do that too. But I wanted to also be like a school. I don't know. I have like this big vision for it. So I definitely get what you're saying, because I feel like, I don't know. I just want to help people. And I feel like big law doesn't necessarily help people. And so I'm not just going to just do big law, but I want the money from big law.
Yeah, I see that with my company. We have a lot of people that, are very interested in helping, but the firm is pretty big on pro bono numbers. So they try to market that, but it's like, well, you just want it just for the the press. So, it'll be pretty interesting seeing how people do that, especially after Corona, because they're gonna try and sweep up as much pro bono work as they can, because nobody can afford to pay anybody now.
Sure. So is anybody worried about that? Anybody that does want to go into big law? Anybody worried about not being able to get a job in 3 years?
I'm not necessarily concerned with finding a job 3 years from now, because from who I've talked to at different schools, and of course I know it's in these schools' best interest to tell me, no, it'll be fine, but at least the people I talked to seem to be pretty realistic. And they said it might be a problem only in terms of our, not so much the job market, but so much in how we're going to have to find a job if fall doesn't go according to plan is going to be different from how every other class has had to find a job. If we are online right now, online classes are pass fail at most institutions. Those 1L grades for the fall semester are how most people find their 1L internships, because normally you apply before you have your second semester grades. Mm-hmm. So either we would be applying solely on the name of our school, or like, I don't know how that would work, and that's very concerning to me. And that kind of played a part in my like, oh, maybe I should like try to go to a slightly higher ranked school, because if I'm just applying on the name of my school, that might be important. Like if all they're seeing is like my experience, which is not a ton, and then my school, I want them to have something to look at. But most firms are hiring, and this is from a person who works at a big law firm, Alston & Bird in Atlanta. They said they're not, when they hire associates, they're not hiring associates for the market now. They're hiring associates in a market 3 years from now. So I'm not super concerned about finding a job afterwards. And even in a recession, especially things like securities, bankruptcy, those are mergers, acquisitions, those are enormous fields. And I feel like legal is pretty stable that way.
Right. Yeah, I kind of feel the same as you. Like I'm not concerned with it, and I'm not going to make myself concerned with it. I'm just not going to think about it.
There's so much happening. I can't do all of it.
Just ignore it until it goes away.
Okay, guys. So 2 more questions. First question is, if anybody has a significant other, do you plan on like continuing that relationship? And then if you don't have one right now, do you think you'll be able to find one? Do you think you'll be able to balance dating in law school? So Janelle, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can for sure go first. So this is something that I have asked a lot of, like, especially Georgetown, because that's where I'm going. A lot of their BOLSA members, some students, and I've talked to admitted students about it too. I'm single right now, and part of my goal is for law school is to find my life partner in law school. It's something that's pretty important to me. I want to be married before I'm 30 and like have a family and all of that stuff. So definitely finding a partner is important to me. There are definitely factors in that. Like I know I'm going to go into a field where I'm not going to make a lot of money. So I want to be financially stable. And part of that is, I'll say marrying rich. Obviously I want my partner to love what they do, but also I want us to be in a place to have that comfort in starting a family together. I know, knowing me and how competitive I am, I could not date another lawyer. I don't think I could date anyone in the same field as me. So I thought about having what we like to call a big law bae, but I don't know if it would work out because I am very competitive. So not sure what that's going to look like. I haven't really gotten an answer from a lot of the people I've talked to. They just kind of said, like, it happens as it happens. Like, you focus on yourself and it happens. But it's definitely one of the things that I'm going in. I'm obviously, like, it's going to happen when it happens, but it is a priority to me. I think it's also going to be important to have that person. Like, I know that most of my friends are going to be law students. I would love to have that person who's not associated with law schools on the outside, who can be that support system, who's not my family, who can be there for me as I'm going through this process.
Me and my boyfriend have been together for it'll be 3 years in November,
Oh, we
actually.
love.
Girl, it's stressful. I've been wanting to kill him some days. I just can't. But you know, we met while I was still in school, and he's older than me. He's about 5 years older than me, so he's almost 30, and he's kind of at the point in his life where he's preparing to kind of settle down. So that works for us because he knows that, I'm still kind of gathering my life up together. So he's been really supportive of my aspirations of going to school. I think it's because he just wants to be a house husband and just not go to work. But that's not going to work for me because I'm not going to give you an allowance. I give my kids an allowance. That's it. But, he's always pushing me. Like, I lost a paper one night. I had 2 papers due at 9 a.m. and my computer crashed, and I cried for a good hour because I could not get them back. And he sat up with me at 3 o'clock in the morning, just like, it's going to be okay. So having that support and having somebody that understands that this isn't going to be an easy journey, there's not going to be a lot of good days. I'm going to come home stressed and irritated, which I think is part of the reason why I'm going and he's staying home, so I don't take it out on him. But he knows the goal and he knows where I'm trying to get to, and he's not going to get in the way of what I want to do. But I also think if you're in a relationship now, you have to have that talk, because they have to understand that law school is a huge commitment. It's essentially going to be a full-time job. And unless you know how to balance that, or you're prepared to balance it, it's not going to work out well for either one of you. It's just going to be stressful and miserable the whole time, and you're going to feel like you wasted all your time trying to be with somebody. So be careful, be smart about it. If you date in law school, please don't date somebody in your class. Do not do it. It's not going to work. Because if you break up and you guys sit in the same seats 2 down from each other, you're going to be so pissed every time you walk into class, like, really? Like, I got to see you again for the whole semester. It's not going to work.
Yeah, I definitely agree with not messing people in your class. Like, I'm single. I just feel like I don't know if I would want to date someone from my own law school. Like, I didn't date anybody or mess with people from my own undergrad, like, while I've been here, because I just feel like it breeds messiness. So, especially because law schools are, depending on where you went for undergrad, can be significantly smaller than your undergrad. And especially, like, for me, like, depending on who you hang out with, your community can be really small and everybody knows each other. So if something happens and you break up, it's awkward. Nobody wants that. But for me, like, of course, it'd be nice to find, like, a little romance outside of my books. But it's going to be my name on this degree. So I'm trying to, that's the main priority. If you go to law school in a big city, like, there will, of course, be a lot of people, like, in that, that 20s, 30s age range, who are working professionals, who maybe are, finishing up grad school or getting their master's or doing lots of cool stuff. And there's lots of different ways to meet people in and outside the classroom. So, it'll work out. We'll see. Will I graduate with a ring? Am I manifesting it? Yes. So, we'll see.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, so I'm also coming off of several years of just messy dating. So at this point, I'm very much like, I'm just trying to secure the bag. So, I'm just going to go in. I'm not really going to be looking for love. And my current idea right now is that if I find love will wait for me 3 years to get my JD.
So I guess the last question, what are you guys the most excited about? The one thing you're most excited about?
I know I'm definitely excited for, I don't know if this is like one thing in particular. I'm excited to, like, start a new chapter of my life, because this will be, like, adulting for real for me, because I've never, like, had to, like, really apartment shop or have, like, a real budget or do any of these, like, adulting things. I know I'm super excited about, like, I don't know, like, I'm just excited about this new chapter but I think out of that general category, I'm probably really excited about like, moving out for the first time for real, and having my
great
space. Because I have my apartment.
It's great, Morgan.
It's not the same as, like, being, like, permanently out of the house, like, the whole year, rather than just, like, the 10 months you're at school. So excited for that.
I'm excited to meet, like my future coworkers. The school I'm going to, everybody's pretty much going for the same thing. We've got a few outliers here and there, but I'm excited to kind of make those new connections and meet some new people. Find those that I'm gonna, that are gonna be there to, I can lean on them, they can lean on me for stuff, and we can all go out and be better and do better in our communities, and not just get a degree and say, oh, I've got my law degree now, I'm gonna go take 10 vacations. As nice as that would be, but I strongly believe that you get a degree to help pave the way for those coming up behind you, and that we need to really make sure that we're not taking advantage of the opportunities that we have. And so just being able to go and work with those type of people, work with those type of minds, especially you guys, is, I'm really looking forward to that and looking forward to growing and, of course, getting paid, because we all love money.
Alyssa, what about you?
Oh, I think I'm really looking forward to not just going to law school, because that's been a long time dream of mine, but finally moving to DC. It's kind of been my dream city, and it's been my goal to live there for a long time. All of my best friends beat me there, coincidentally, so they're all waiting for me to catch up and get out there. So I'm just really looking forward to starting my life after moving around between so many cities over my lifetime. Really just looking forward to having a home and putting down roots for once.
Okay. Janelle?
Yeah, I'm very similar to Morgan. I'm excited to start the new chapter. I am not really a fan of moving, so I'm definitely not looking forward to that, but I'm looking forward to the opportunities and the environment, and just I feel like I started this process over a year ago, and I feel like I've just been dredging on, and I'm ready to just get into it and be super excited about going back to school. I'm actually very, very excited about going back to school and learning and reading again, and just getting in that environment and studying. I tried the real adult world. Wasn't for me at this point in my life, so I'm very excited to get back to the comfort of school and learning. That's what I'm excited for.
Inikki?
For me, it's probably moving to a bigger city. I come from a small town, and then I moved to Durham, which is not that big of a city. And then I went abroad and got to see all the benefits of going to a bigger city and having access to a bunch of different things. So I'm really excited to explore the city and myself, and grow in my interest and what I'm able to do and become interested in. Also, just meeting new people. There's so many people in New York that even outside of NYU, there's Columbia City, there's so many universities. So being around so many different people and so many different ideas will be so cool, and it will grow my own understanding of law and different point of views. I'm really also excited to start my career. I feel undergraduate, I knew I wanted to go to law school, but you had to do a preliminary step of doing something you're semi-interested in before being able to get to law school and do what you want to do. So it's really nice to get out and start what's going to be my career and hopefully the rest of my life and the jobs I want to get into. So studying what I'm truly interested in, I'm really excited.
What I'm most excited for is I've always worked full-time or almost full-time while being in school, and I'm so excited to do just school. I think it'll be really interesting how much time I actually have, or seeing how much, maybe I need to reform my study habits, and getting into the groove of just being in school is going to be really interesting for me. And then also, I'm also just like Inikki. I'm so ready to just start my job that I can just do. You know what I mean? Not my job for now, not my job for this year or this 3 months, just my job that's leading into my next, a logical career progression is all I'm asking for.
Right.
And I'm really excited to get that finally started off.
Yeah, nope. I think we're all on the same page. So, thank you, ladies.
Guys,
Yay.
thank you for having us.
That was so much fun.
Thank you.
Okay guys, so that is the end of the video. I hope you guys did enjoy it. It is a longer video, but I definitely hope you guys got some good information from it. If you're interested in our men's panel video that will be coming up, I do have 5 or 6 young men that will also be discussing their law school journey and answering some juicy questions as well. So of course, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell. And I will see y'all in my next video. Bye y'all.